I've snapped it. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. About a month or so, in one of the Blind Pinterest Challenge episodes, I made a very cute teacup fairy garden, and I was so obsessed with its cuteness. I think this is so cute and just so lovely. I've decided to make a few more with kind of like different themes and my own kind of style. And it's weird as well because I'm not the kind of person who's particularly into miniatures, but for some reason, doing it in like a little teacup, it just really excites us. It really excited me in that Blind Pinterest Challenge episode, and I needed some more. I needed a fix. I'm addicted to them now. So let's make some teacup, well, I don't think they're called fairy gardens because I'm not doing fairy gardens. I suppose I'm making teacup miniature models based around different themes. That's what we'll call them. It's a very wordy title, but I can't think of anything else. Okay, so the first teacup model I thought I would try and make is an underwater theme. I thought that would be quite fun and very different from the last one we did. So for this one, I decided I would start off with a transparent glass little teacup and saucer, and then I added some little rocks to the bottom of it. I also bought this artificial garland. I think it's for weddings, but this would work really well as kind of like a seaweed object inside of here. So I just cut a couple of strands of that and positioned it inside of this little glass teacup. I also bought these little cute colourful plastic fish online, and I think they'll work really well in this little cup. And then I just decided to add some UV resin over the top of it just to secure everything into place, and then got my little UV torch and set that resin. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to be adding more resin, and if I add the resin without all of them objects kind of staying in place, then they're going to float to the top and they're going to move around, and it's just going to ruin the illusion. So once that UV resin had set and everything was in place, I decided to add a small layer of epoxy resin and then just waited for that to set. And for the next few days, I decided to repeat the same process, adding little different kinds of plastic fish onto different layers of this resin, setting it with the UV resin, and then adding more epoxy resin and building it up and building it up and building it up. It took a while, but this is what I needed to do in order to get the full underwater fantasy that I was craving. Another feature I wanted for this little teacup miniature was a boat, and I decided to try and make a boat or a raft or some kind of boat looking object out of straws. And I didn't really have like a plan of kind of doing it. I just had some sort of a vision in my head and tried to make that vision come to life. So I was basically just haphazardly cutting at straws and just hoping it would eventually turn into a boat. And I was just going to use some hot glue to attach all the straws together. And hang on, stop right there. I don't know whether you've noticed this, but what is that? It's my brand new cordless hot glue gun. It hasn't got a wire. Look, I can move it all around. What a cool invention that is. I finally bought one. I've been wanting one for years, and I finally got myself one. And like how crazy is that? It's just got like a battery and stuff. What a world we're living in. Wireless technology. Best purchase I've ever made. I don't know who invented these. I'm assuming they got obviously help from aliens or something. But we're living in a world where we can have hot glue guns that just, we're not tethered to the cord. It's great. But yes, so now I'm a fancy crafter with a cordless glue gun. Don't want a fancy car or Gucci clothing or anything. I want my cordless glue gun, and I've got it. It's only about £20. Best thing I've ever bought. So yes, I just did a lot of gluing and cutting. And I eventually got this, which I think kind of looks like a boat. Kind of like a little sailboat or a raft. Not entirely what was in my mind, but it'll do. But I didn't fancy having a polka dot boat because I wanted this little teacup model to be super accurate. So I decided to paint my paper straw boat brown, just with acrylic paint. And once it was dry, it was looking a little bit like this, and I think it looks alright. I think it's definitely passable as a boat. So all I did was secure this little straw boat onto the final layer of resin, again with some UV resin. And then once that was set, just poured a very final layer of epoxy resin. So all the resin's finally set, and it's looking like this. So there's the little fish in there, and my little kind of weird sailboat floating on top, and then these just little dangly bits of seaweed. But I think that's looking quite cool. But I've got a couple more things to add to it, just to kind of finish it off. So if we put it on our little saucer, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to keep these as long as they are and just wrap them round. I think I might, you know. In all honesty, this was supposed to be not like a super serious kind of model. I wanted it to be a little bit funky, but I also wanted it to be a little bit more sophisticated than what it is, and it hasn't turned out that sophisticated. But I'm just gonna go with it. I think I'm going for a shipwrecked kind of design now. So I think I'll keep the seaweed quite long, and then it kind of adds to that effect, doesn't it? And then I've also got some shells. In hindsight, I should have really added the shells to the bottom of here, and I think I meant to, but I forgot. So that's why it doesn't have shells inside of it. But it's okay, we're gonna work around that. Okay, so I think I just want to place some little shells around here. I'm not gonna glue them on or anything like that. And I think that's all I wanted to do. So here it is, my final finished underwater little teacup model. And I think it's turned out quite nice. I like it. I was debating whether to add a sail onto kind of the top part where the little sticks are coming out. I don't know what the terminology for the boat is. What's it called? The mast. I think it's called the mast. I was going to add some sails on, just out of paper or something like that. But then I was like, I don't think I want to. I kind of like it bare. So let me know down in the comments whether you think it should have a sail or not. I kind of like it the way it is. But I'm pretty into it. I think it's different. I enjoy it. It's very, very cute. So I think I've been successful with this one. Okay, so the next little teacup mini model idea that I had was to create kind of like a volcanic island design and just hope it goes okay. So for this one I decided to buy a black and gold teacup because I thought it had quite a earthy volcanic feeling to it. I've bought very specific teacups for the environment and the ideas and the concepts I've had. I think it's actually a really nice teacup, so hopefully I don't ruin it. And because in the last video I used floral foam, which I absolutely can't stand, made me cringe so hard. This time I decided I wouldn't use floral foam and instead I would use expandable foam just to fill the teacup full so I can kind of work on the surface of it. Now just put that to one side and let it set. Once the foam had inflated and it had fully dried, it was looking quite funny, and to be fair, I kinda liked it like this. However, I needed a flat surface to work on, so I just used a knife and cut the foam down. And this was far less cringy than cutting the floral foam, way less cringy. It was also time to try and make a volcano, and for this I just used some of that packaging paper you get in the Amazon boxes, which just gets everywhere. I have so much of it. But I thought I would use it, I'd get rid of it. So I just scrumpled it up and soaked it in a bowl of water and left that for probably about half an hour or so. I then tried to mold a volcano out of this wet paper because obviously when the paper's wet it's a lot more flexible and mushy and you can kind of squidge it into the shape that you want. So I pissed around with that for a bit trying to create a volcano shape, and once I was happy it was just time to wait and let it dry. After a few days it was looking a little bit like this, and unfortunately because I'd made it in different sections of paper instead of making it all in one giant lump, it actually came apart in two. So I need to do a little bit of a fix. So I used a lot of hot glue, stuck it all back together, neatened it up a little bit, trimmed some corners off and stuff, and then finally hot glued it to the foam and kind of tidied it up a little bit while I was on there. Just kind of tweaking it, making sure I felt like it was volcanic enough. And I think I'm happy with that. I'm gonna have to be because I've done it now. And I did realise it was a little bit fragile once it had dried and it was stuck on top of this mug. So I thought the best idea would be to seal it in with a super thick layer of PVA glue. Once the PVA glue had dried, I just wanted to paint this to make it look a little bit more like a volcano. So I added some black on the top and then just painted the rest brown, including the foam, and then let that dry again. And the next day, after that had dried, there's a lot of waiting around and drying times. These little teacup models took me ages to make, but once that was fully dried I decided to add some highlights and some little details with some white paint, and I think that looks alright. I wasn't 100% sure what I was doing, but looks fine. And you can't have a volcano without lava, obviously. So I chose a bunch of different coloured air drying clays in obviously lava colours and mixed them all together, twisted them round, shaped it. I wanted it to look quite fiery, and then rolled it out and cut that into a lava shape, kind of running down. That's what I was wanting, like a stream of lava. And then just attach that to the volcano, making sure it went all the way down past the cup and onto the saucer, because I think that's quite fun. And then I again let that set. Okay, so I've got my little volcanic mountainous teacup with us now, and I think it's looking alright. The lava looks a little bit more cartoony than I was hoping, but it's alright, it's fine. I still kind of like it. However, I've got a few more details to add. So the first thing I want to add is some like little trees. So I've got some kind of old twiggy branches here, and I'm hoping if I cut them down and glue them in, they'll look kind of like dead trees. That's what I'm hoping for. To be fair, I would like them quite big actually. None of these are to scale, because I think scale, when it comes to like model making and stuff, it just sucks the fun out of it. it. You have to do maths and all that kind of stuff. But I do want it to be not really in scale, but somewhat believable. I'll cut them down. If I have giant trees, it won't make sense. And this is also why I made this thing out of foam and paper, because I could just push the trees in here. Aha! Oh, this was such a good idea. Well done. Because I want some of the trees kind of going up the mountain as well. Maybe I've snapped it. I might not be able to put any on the actual mountain. It might just have to be in the foam. In fact, I am going to add just a tiny bit of hot glue because they're not particularly secure. And I do want to get the most out of my new hot glue gun because I love it. It's an anti-drip one, but as you can see, it lied to us. I don't think anti-drip hot glue guns exist. I think it's all like a load of crap. These trees are definitely small, but they're not to scale at all. They're very far from scale, actually. I suppose this could be like a prehistoric teacup, because back in the dinosaur times, trees and vegetation and stuff, they were all like massive, weren't they? So I think I've added enough trees. And then my final thing I want to add with this is obviously some smoke coming out the top. I'm just going to try and do this with some cotton wool. Oh, yes. Oh, that'll look great. I don't know why I painted this black for. There's no point. The entire thing's going to get covered anyway. I'll just try and fluff it up a bit so it looks more realistic. I was wanting to paint this, but do you think I should try? It's like smoke. It's got like bits of grey and stuff in it, hasn't it? This could go wrong, but I'm just gonna go for it. It's very hard to paint cotton wool. I feel like I should have just left it white. Ah well, never mind. Just all falls apart. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop before I ruin it anymore. So here we have it, my finished volcano little teacup model. And I think it looks alright. It does border on kind of a school science project kind of feel to it. It doesn't feel very elevated or sophisticated. It kind of feels in between that like a child's made it and an adult's made it. So someone in between there's made it. It's got a cartoony vibe, but there's some elements that are very like nice and sophisticated about it. I think it's the mug. The one thing that I bought is the sophisticated part, and the rest of it is a little bit tacky. But I still like it. I think it's different and interesting, and well, it is what it is. I've made it now, so if I don't like it, it's tough luck. Okay, so I've left the one that I feel the least confident about till last, because I wanted to create a winter themed one. However, it's now morphed into a Christmas themed one, and I don't know how that happened. It just one day I woke up and it went from winter to Christmas. They're closely connected, so it's fine. I think this one could look really, really just tacky and hideous, but we'll soon find out. Okay, so I started out with this quite lovely, very delicate blue teacup for this little model. And I did the same thing I did last time and filled this up with foam. And I again chopped the foam off so I had a nice flat surface to work with. I then sealed the foam with a thick layer of PVA glue, and instead of painting the foam, because obviously the foam's white and it already looks like snow, I decided I would add some silver glitter because I thought that would look really magical and fancy and not tacky at all. And it took me about 10 minutes just to get into the tub of glitter. The lid did not want to come off, but I got the glitter on and it's looking very magical. I then decided I wanted to make an igloo from air drying clay to sit on top of this little teacup. So this was my first attempt at making this igloo, and it looked absolutely shit, so I got rid of that and tried again. This time I thought I would try and model it round a glass, and it was too big. It wasn't what I wanted. It looked awful, so I got rid of that and started again. So my third and final attempt, I used a little rubber basketball to mold the clay around to try and make a little igloo. And at this point, I wasn't necessarily happy with it. I was just sick of trying to make an igloo. So it was just one of those situations where it's gonna have to do. I'm sick of it. This is my third attempt now. This is as good as it's gonna get. Okay, so I've got my little teacup and my little igloo. It doesn't look too bad, but it's just, it's fine. It's just really basic. I wanted something a little more fancier than this, but I just got fed up of trying. But I think igloos kind of have like the square pattern around them that makes like the ice cubes that build it up, or the snow cubes or whatever. So I'm just gonna try and draw that on with a permanent marker and just add some detail really, because it just looks a bit boring. I like how I just dive into things regardless of whether I think it's gonna work or not. My motto is, if it looks a bit crap or it looks a bit naff, then it looks a bit crap and it looks a bit naff, who cares? Try and make it like quite sketchy and arty. I think that's always a really good descriptive word when you call something arty, because it means it can be like a little bit rough and it's acceptable. What do igloos look like? I feel like I'm just making this up. They're just made up of lots of little blocks, aren't they? Oh, I don't know what I was worried about. I think I've done an alright job of that. Ah, well done me. Right, so I just want to hot glue this to my teacup. I want to put it quite far back because I've made it too big. I think I got a bit carried away with the hot glue. There's a lot of hot glue shown. And then the final thing that I bought was a bag full of like random plastic little Christmassy things. And I'm just gonna have fun and stick a load of these on here and just kind of hope it looks okay. I think this will really like push it over the edge of being like really tacky, but I don't care. Okay, well, I wasn't planning on adding that much to it, but I got carried away and I just couldn't stop. I've used almost a whole bag of plastic decorations. I feel like I zoned out and I was like, oh, just one more. Oh, just one more. I'll add another one. And I've ended up with this. But here it is, my winter/Christmas themed little teacup miniature igloo garden thing. And is it sophisticated? No. Is there a lot going on with it? Oh, definitely. And I actually think it's quite nice. I think it's very cutesy, very, very incredibly kitsch and tacky, and I kind of like that. I like that aesthetic. I'm into it. Was my initial plan to create a very sophisticated igloo winter kind of garden scene? I'm not going to say, because that's what I haven't achieved. But I'm still into it. I still think it's nice. I like all three of them, to be fair. I think they've all got charm. I think that's the word I would use for them. They've got a bit of charm to them. You're not going to see them and be like, oh wow, how did you make that? You're going to look at them and be like, oh yeah, I know how you made that. You just glued loads of shit to it. But that just about does it for today's little adventure into mini model teacup making again. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments which one was your most favourite little teacup miniature model in today's video. Don't want to know which one your least favourite was, but which one was your favourite? They do take absolutely ages to make though. I've spent days making these little things. A lot of time and effort. And if you don't like the finished outcome, then you just feel like you've wasted your time. But I don't feel like that at all. I feel like my time's been well put to use. Does tell them the truth.